appropriately, but because Diana was not considered a monarch, there was no plan.
No interest at all on behalf of the monarchy to have a state funeral for Diana, and you'll see actually as this progresses that there are going to be a number of changes from the type of funeral that she should have originally had. One, for example, there's been a lot of discussion about the Queen's flag at Buckingham Palace, and you probably saw that as the people outside just waited just for word from the Queen, just a bare flagpole, and it became very evident actually that the people wanted something more than that. The Queen, on the other hand, felt that throughout state history they have never had anything of a lowering of a state flag, and what she has decided to do, and we will see this a bit later, is to put the Union Jack at half-mast, to remove the state flag, and this again is one change actually, which may herald a new change actually for other situations of this sort.
Now the flag usually is not up unless the Queen is in residence, and that was part of the controversy, right?
Exactly so.
But people thought there should be an exception at this point, and they actually, the public won out in that sense. Now, interestingly enough, the Union Jack has never flown at half-staff at the Queen's residence, even if the Queen dies. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, yeah. This is a huge change in etiquette and protocol. And of course, in times of mourning, I think the people that were standing out there waiting just for a glimpse of some sort of life from the monarchy felt, you know, we don't want to stand on protocol, that we want something else. We want to know, does the Queen care, as one of the headlines ran.
And what is the reason for it never flying at half-staff?
Well, essentially, you know, you've heard the king is dead, long live the king. The idea is that the sovereign is never dead. There's always a successor, and therefore the flag should never be at half-mast. So really the Queen has made an exceptional compromise in this, and what we have seen really is a responsiveness on behalf of the Crown that we haven't seen in a long time. And if many people feel if they're going to survive the way they ought to survive, there's got to be more changes in the future as well.
Now we are hearing bells toll in the background, and they are tolling every minute.
Every minute, yes. And this too, Kristen, is an example of the usual state funerals in the UK. You heard this the last time, I think, was for Winston Churchill. They rang every minute, on the minute. And this again is on behalf of Diana. Even though she was stripped of her title, Her Royal Highness, she is being accorded the type of funeral that in fact Her Royal Highness would indeed have.
Let's talk about the crowds that have turned out. There have been virtually no reports of any disruption or disturbance, that it has been a relatively peaceful crowd, even though in some spots they're said to be about 100 deep, which is just incredible.
That's extraordinary. There was some concern on behalf of the Crown that, in fact, they might be somewhat unruly, but I think clearly the reaction of the Queen has diffused that. It's dignified. You can see a lot of people on the side weeping. People clearly feel for the moment. Some people say that they want closure. And this is the easiest way really to come to London, to be a part of it. Others feel they need the sense of community. And I think what London is right now, seeing the largest crowds it's ever seen, some say since VE Day, others say ever, that really what you're seeing is a sense of community in the UK.
Now, the path that they are taking, on the left side, you'll have Kensington Garden for about a quarter mile, and then Hyde Park. And on the right, you're going to see a number of the embassies. And in fact, I understand that there's a house which is sand-colored where JFK once lived, actually in the 30s when his father was the U.S. ambassador. So some history along this route that we're seeing.
Very much so. We're going to see really quite a few things. We're going to be passing Albert Hall, where recently in '95 Diana attended a concert there. She had a very close affinity with the Royal Albert Hall. It's an extraordinary looking building for those that might not have seen it. Really just almost a completely round circular hall sitting on the side of Kensington Road. And as we come along, actually, as we go through Carriage Drive, we're going to see a number of other monuments, a number of other notable buildings. One thing interesting, of course, is that the procession will not be going past Harrods. It's going to be about 2 blocks away from that.
Right.
And many say, you know, is this something that is purposeful, or is that something that has always been planned?
But it will be closed for the first time since Winston Churchill's funeral, correct? In 1965, Harrods, although it was closed, we should say, right after the death of of Diana and
This
Dodi.
is true, actually, and in fact what they have done, they've virtually built a living monument just outside Harrods with flags, pictures and flowers. I mean, half of London now, the whole mood in London has changed. It's really been an absolutely remarkable sentiment on behalf of the British people. There has been talk as to whether or not this indicates a change in the British character. I think no, it's very easy to draw a conclusion from something as emotional as this. But there's a change in the nation now on the general mood, and I think Blair actually really epitomizes that.
Now, do you think the Queen reacted to some pressure from the Prime Minister, Tony Blair, or do you think she was acting on her own? I understand that Prince Charles may have possibly been pressuring his mother as well to open this up and to speak to the people, number one, last night, and also a number of other changes that we've seen.
Yeah, Blair actually has been quite remarkable in all of this. He's had a 15-minute discussion with Her Royal Highness and with Charles concerning how they might respond to this. As I said, they were totally blindsided by the public reaction to all of this. And Blair has helped them enormously in terms of not only coping with the public pressures, but in terms of how to respond to the public pressures. And many people say that the Queen's speech the other day is really a response to how Blair would have staged it. It was the first time that we didn't see just a stark backdrop, that in fact they had opened the windows to Buckingham Palace. You could see the people and hear the sounds in the background, and it was very cleverly staged, in fact.
And he and Diana had it seemed like they were forming a close friendship of sorts, because he wanted her to continue on and really highlight her charity.
Very much so. Yeah, they were very much of a single mind. They had a lot of sentiment in common. And they had for the time that they knew one another, a very close working relationship. And they were closer in age, of course, than many of the other in government that she had worked with. So it was. I think Blair has sensed the pulse of the nation, as did Diana. And Diana was just a mass of contradictions. And I think what Tony Blair has done is really taken those contradictions and put them into some sort of a force, and hence found his way into politics.
And we should say that he will be speaking at the funeral today. He'll be speaking from Corinthians. And also her two sisters and her brother will also be speaking. And interestingly enough, her brother banned 7 tabloid editors that were invited to the funeral. He said he did not want them there, so they have been disinvited.
Yeah, tabloids are not having a good day of it, actually. They're going to find it's rather difficult existing in London these days.
Now, there were a couple interesting things that came over about the tabloids, and one was that a charity that helps deaf people says that some of London's notorious tabloids asked for help in finding lip readers who could figure out what the royals were saying to each other in Westminster Abbey, which, given everything this week, it just seems to just rub everything the wrong way, just so distasteful.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's phenomenal, actually, but unfortunately not surprising.
Now let's talk about the coffin itself is riding along, and it's guarded by the royal troop, correct? And it weighs about 2 tons, I understand. It doesn't look that heavy when you look at it right now.
No, it doesn't actually, but it's a heavy piece of equipment, and this goes back about 500 years of tradition. It's interesting, though, that the precedent for state funerals really was set earlier this century. And it was probably with Edward's funeral, so that most of the changes actually have occurred in the previous 9 centuries, and to the point at which now this is a fairly set state funeral, in fact.
Let's talk about Princess Diana. Obviously, her popularity has played such a role into why this funeral has become as big as it has been. What about if another royal were to have a funeral? Do you think it would be of this magnitude, with these millions of people lining the streets, billions tuning into television?
It's an interesting question. With Diana, one is she died before her age, and I think if the Queen or the Queen Mother dies, clearly it'll be a tragedy. But with the Queen Mother, I mean, everyone is expecting it sooner or later.
Right.
With Diana, it was just so sudden. I think also the people could relate to Diana. And of course, this has been the complaint about the monarchy generally recently, is that they're not in touch with the people, whereas Diana was in touch with the people. And I think the people felt her death, and they felt it in a way in which they probably would not feel it with the monarchy now. The Queen Mother is enormously popular. I don't mean to take away from that. But what you don't have is this dreadful tragedy that you see in Diana. And you also don't see, it's an interesting thing with Diana as well, is on one hand she was glamorous and yet she was also unpretentious. She was a fashion icon and yet she was a mother, so you see these contradictions. She was a society belle and a campaigner for charities, and she was the sort of woman, although filled with contradictions, that people could relate to. And it seemed that as bad as things would get, with her divorce, with the bulimia, with the attempted suicides, people could relate to her.
And they saw her come out of her shell. They used to call her Shy Di. I mean, you haven't heard that for years, because she kind of just emerged and became her own person right before the British people.
Yeah, I think people saw her grow up, and they saw her grow really from a shy young lady, perhaps not that notable, to really someone that is poised and elegant.
Now, I believe we just saw a picture of some of the guests, I believe at 4:30 our time, which they were starting to admit the first guests into Westminster Abbey. So I think that's just what we saw a picture of, just to keep people abreast of what's happening here. Now, getting back to Diana, talk about media savvy as well. When we first saw her, the picture I think that it sticks in everyone's mind when they first saw Diana was that picture where the sunlight was beating through her skirt.
Yes.
And then toward, right before her death, she could manipulate the media in a sense. She knew how to use the media to get the results that she wanted. Although she was hounded by them too, there was the bad part. So she really learned.
She learned enormously, and it was tough learning. And as you say, I think we all watched her learn, and this is what made her so endearing. It was a case where we felt a part of her, and we could actually see her. She has very sad eyes, and I think that's one of the things that people notice. And somehow there was always a certain sense of tragedy about the woman, and now, of course, that tragedy has been brought to a tragic end.
And her eyes spoke volumes, didn't they? Let's talk about the procession will stop at St. James Palace, and that is where we are not sure yet whether Princess William and Harry, and Prince Charles will join the procession, but possibly. I guess Prince Charles has said that he will leave it up to his sons as to what they want to do, and that will be quite emotional if they do indeed join this procession.
Yeah, there's been enormous controversy there, of course, as to whether or not they're going to follow the casket. This is where they will be living, of course, moving from Kensington Palace to St. James. St. James is right on the Mall, between the Mall and Pall Mall, and it's in an area which is known as Clubland, where most of the London clubs are located, where in fact Charles and Diana spent during their happier days really a number of very pleasant evenings, in fact.
Now, Prince Charles has always been called aloof and cold, but I think the one picture that sticks out in my mind over the week is when Prince Harry grabbed his hand when they came out, I believe it was at Balmoral, and as they were looking at flowers, and he kept holding on to his son's hand, and it showed a different picture of him. And some say that he isn't as cold as he's said to be.
Yeah, I went to university with him.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, and he is sensitive. He is very sensitive. He has a good sense of humor. He was not known for any great deep thoughts, but I think that you see the monarchy through a particular image, and often it's diffused through that lens, and you see a more formal type of relationship than, in fact, you forget in fact these are human beings. There's no doubt that he was far more formal than Diana, and this of course were a lot of the problems. But that picture, that spoke volumes, actually, just him holding Harry's hand. It was touching, and it really brought the whole funeral to home, in fact.
And how do you think the boys will do under his watch? Some say that they go from Diana, who's used to, you see her enveloping them in huge hugs, and then you have Prince Charles and the Queen, who have just a much more stern appearance?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. I think everyone's hearts go out to the children. Some have said that Charles may change now more than the children, knowing in fact that his role has changed. And it's been reputed, and you've probably seen this on the wires actually, that he has sent a letter to Diana, which would have arrived actually on Monday. And apparently, and in that letter, you see a certain sensitivity in Charles, and I think most people realize, in fact, that as his role is going to change from just a more remote father to a father and mother, you're going to see a change in Charles as well as the children.
Big changes to come. Now, obviously, the death of Diana has sent a shockwave around the world, and here in the city, a handful of tourists and native New Yorkers have gathered at the Telephone Bar, which is a British pub in the East Village, to watch the funeral. And in British tradition, the restaurant is serving, among other things, tea and scones. So you can see it right here. And obviously at this early hour, and you still have people just up, and I imagine President Clinton has said he will be up watching, although he's not attending. The First Lady is attending. And here you have, right in the East Village, many, many people watching as well.
That's amazing, actually. On the ride over here, which was, I guess, about 3:45 this morning, we often filed early anyway because of the 5-hour change between here and London. But it was amazing on a Saturday morning, the number of people that I saw up. It's just absolutely extraordinary.
I was thinking the same thing as I drove in. It was incredible. Now, let's talk about, for people who are from Britain but aren't able to get back to London for this, and just some of the emotions that they might be feeling, because people in the United States obviously have this affinity for Princess Diana but don't really understand, as you said, the monarchy and how important it is to the British people.
Well, the monarchy plays such a central role, actually. On one hand, it's really an intangible. On the other hand, it's a very visible role. And it's something that you grow up with. It's something that plays a part in the culture. It plays a part in the history. It's something that you feel. I mean, it's something that you almost take comfort from. It's a small country, of course, and it's a very intimate country, and it's a very isolated country in many ways, in the sense that it's an island. It's an island country. Many people find it rather humorous, actually, the whole question: should Britain have built a tunnel to France? But this, in many ways, is really indicative of the mentality of an island nation. And within this island nation, you have a monarchy that has played a particular role. It's interesting that there is a rearguard movement, perhaps, that feels that the monarchy should no longer exist. And indeed, in fact, just months ago, polls have indicated that for the first time, as far as I can remember, actually, that the popularity was less than 50%, which is really quite extraordinary.
Right.
And 50% of those polled indicated that the monarchy may not last for another 50 years.
What is your feeling?
I think the monarchy has been through very bad times throughout history, and it will survive this as it has survived others. There's also there's really no active Republican movement in the UK. What is existing is a new mood with the new Labour government, and these are really constitutional issues as opposed to monarchy issues.
Interesting. Now we see the procession still making its way. How far is it from Kensington Palace to Westminster Abbey? Any idea?
I think it's about 3 miles, and I think it'll probably take about an hour and a half to 2 hours, actually, for the procession to reach Westminster Abbey.
And we should say they extended the route by, it's 3 times what it originally was set out to be. And as we look at the crowds, good thing they did, because they are, I'm sure the people in the back cannot even see, just being a part of history.
Absolutely. It was originally from St. James's Palace, which would have been about 1/2 to, I guess, about 2/3 of a mile. And this is, again, an area where the Crown has actually reacted to the public, not recognizing at all what the response was going to be. And this is why, I mean, everyone is surprised, including Londoners. I spoke to people who've traveled for miles just to lay flowers at Buckingham Palace, and it surprised them that they would take these efforts, actually.
And you see people, as the procession moves past them, they start to walk with the procession there. You can see them along them.
You can see it's a very orderly group. There's a somber mood. You see no pushing. It's really, there's almost no necessity for crowd patrol, although you see policemen just lining. The security is very high, actually, although it's not that noticeable.
They said there's 27,000 London police out on force.
Absolutely. There's no holiday today in London for any of the police force.
And you just see the emotion on people's faces right there. The city is basically dark, I would imagine, until at least midday, if not all day, with the stores being closed and everything out of respect for Diana. Let's go back and talk a little bit about Prince Charles again, if we can. You said that we'll probably see more changes in him than maybe anyone else. In fact, it is said that this past week he has been standing up to the Queen a little bit more. Do you believe that to be true?
I think probably so. I think the Queen is known to be enormously inflexible. She lives her little life, and she does it the way it's been done really for thousands of years. She has made concessions, as I've indicated before, but Charles, I think, recognizes that the people need more, that the people want more. And I think perhaps that Diana's message got to him in death as it never really did in life. And I think he recognizes this, and I think probably we will see changes, not only in the monarchy, but particularly in the way Charles is reacting to the public.
There was one report earlier this week that he had sent her a letter that she actually had never gotten, but that their relationship had improved over the past couple months, and that he actually signed the letter as something like "Much love, Charles."
Right, lots of love. Yes, exactly. It was really touching there.
Yeah,
and the fact
and
that
surprising.
It came at this time, and enormously surprising. I was amazed to hear that. The divorce, of course, was incredibly bitter. It was a very bitter divorce, and the relationship after a while just became totally intolerable. It was a terrible relationship. Charles and Diana shared very few interests. I mean, he's 12 years older than she is. She was married at 19, virtually uneducated.
Right.
And just
completely two different ways of life.
Entirely. And I don't doubt that in their own ways they were both very much in love at the time. I think what happened though is they grew apart. I don't think they recognized what really marriage entailed in all of this, and this is the tragedy of it. I mean, it's, as I said before, it's a case. It's part fairy tale, it's part soap opera, it's part Shakespearean tragedy, and this is why it's been so sad.
Now, tell us what we're seeing here. We're just looking at a picture of the final. This is where the procession will end, right here.
I think this is the West Gate, if I'm not mistaken, the Westminster Abbey. We're seeing the inside of it now.
We're told that Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Sting, and Steven Seagal are among those who have already made their way inside. We should talk about a number of the other people that are headed there. As we mentioned earlier, the First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton, is attending. The President didn't feel, because it was not a state funeral, that he should attend. Interestingly enough, I read that the Japanese royal family declined their invitation.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't heard this before. Actually, that's quite extraordinary. I'd be interested to find out exactly why they declined. The guest list, of course, is one of the indications that this is not a state funeral. The fact the president is not attending. Some of the people following in the procession are really the Diana's people. We talk of the people's princess. These are people that really represent the charities that she worked with and for. And unfortunately, there's not going to be room for them inside the Abbey. What they are going to do is going to be a delegate from each one of the charities that's going to be represented, and they're going to take part in the procession in the Abbey itself.
And they will join at St. James Palace, correct? As well as Prince Charles, if he does with the boys.
That's correct, yes.
So our itinerary that we have here, the VIPs are just coming up, and you can actually see all the flowers right there in front of the Abbey. So there's things going on at all ends of London right now. I'll just let people look at the pictures for just a moment.
Prime ministers, ex-prime ministers, archbishops, all arriving side by side. This old abbey here has witnessed a rich share of this nation's history in the making. Great scenes of splendor and rejoicing, moments of heartbreaking remembrance. Beginnings and endings have both been marked in a building familiar to every visitor to Britain from far across the world. Today, the Abbey will be the setting for something quite unique. It will become, for a brief hour, at 11 o'clock, the focus of a whole people's remarkable outpouring of love and grief. But it will become, too, a place where that grief is transformed. Thanksgiving for the life of a young woman that the whole world took to its heart. a place where a most unusual blend of words and music will turn our week-long sadness to hope and point to the future, as well as letting us take our tender farewell of someone who loved life and people and was a devoted mother to the boy who one day may be crowned king here in Westminster Abbey.
So this is inside Westminster Abbey, which has quite a history. It's the site of 38 coronations, dozens of royal weddings, and in fact Diana's own parents were married here, although they divorced when she was just 8 years old.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary, for those that haven't been there, it's absolutely an extraordinary cathedral. It's just recently celebrated in 1965, its 900th year. Virtually every monarch has been crowned there, and it's a very imposing cathedral. Charles, of course, decided to be married in St. Paul's rather than Westminster because I think he felt it was almost too imposing, and he preferred the perhaps the grandeur but slightly more informal setting of St. Paul's. I think these people are coming in. Is that the North Gate that they're entering?
I believe the royal family is entering through the west door,
west door,
the Great
that's right.
West Door, so maybe this is a different entrance. And then there are different sections of the cathedral.
The different sections of the cathedral. I think there's room. They've set it up now for room with 2,500 guests actually that are going to be seated during the funeral services. Generally, the royal family always enters in the West Gate. The royal family. In fact, this is.
Yeah, we'll divert for a moment. We're just looking at a... Richard, I'm going to leave this up to you to figure out what this might be.
That's not the royal family. That could be the Spencer family coming. I'm not...
Diana's family, I think we're told that it is, and that looks like that might be Charles Spencer there.
Right. They too will be entering into the Great West Gate. They will be seated separately from the monarchy, and the first two rows, I believe, are going to be set aside for the Spencers and the royal family.
Now, the Spencers in their own right are quite a family.
The service for which this
within
congregation
England
is arriving this morning will be an unusual and a very fitting and moving blend of the traditional with the modern. It blows apart some of the artificial barriers that tend to exist in the ecclesiastical way of thinking. There will be the essential elements of a Church of England funeral service. There will be the familiar scripture sentences sung by the choir, the prayers led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, the words of commendation spoken by the Dean. But there will also be poems read by Diana's two sisters, a tribute by a younger brother, Earl Spencer, and he's proved himself in recent days to be someone who says exactly what he thinks. Verdi, sung by the BBC singers, and Lynn Dawson, the most talented young British soprano who's flown in from Berlin especially to be here. A popular song from Elton John, touchingly rewritten in the last few days, especially for this occasion. An incredibly moving piece by John Taverner, a song for Athene, written originally 4 years ago for a young girl he heard reading Shakespeare here in the Abbey, a girl killed soon after in a cycling accident. It incorporates the words of William Shakespeare's epilogue to Hamlet and the words of the Orthodox funeral service. This will be a service put together in 48 hours. No one asked to participate said no, whatever the logistical problems. The sub-organists, the lay clerks and choristers have all volunteered to come back from their summer vacation. Some have had to fly back thousands of miles to get here. So this family funeral in the inevitably royal setting of the Abbey will itself be a fitting tribute from a lot of different people of different backgrounds and different ages to the esteem and love in which this young woman, Diana, Princess of Wales, was held.
Do you know, I don't know.
Okay.
And it wasn't publicized. At least I haven't heard what it was about.
Right.
But
And in an interview, he did not say what it was. He talked about a friendship that went back at least a decade.
that's right.
And that they made up at Gianni Versace's funeral, unfortunately, which happened in July. So he has lost two very close friends in just, not even 2 months.
And to give an indication just that, as to really the strength of the woman, apparently she asked to be seated next to Elton John during the Versace funeral. And when Elton John began sobbing, Diana put her arm around him, really just to comfort him.
And that picture made headlines all around the world, didn't it?
Phenomenal.
And I guess that is when they patched up their friendship, and he said he's sure glad it happened, because if she had passed away and they had not mended their rift, so to speak, he really would have felt terrible. So there are some of the people sitting in the Westminster Abbey. Just talk about the seats, if you would. I mean, for people who haven't been there.
Well, we're looking now at what I believe is probably on the side of the altar, just behind where the choir would be seated. It's a very typical of the Anglican churches. This is, of course, the seat of the Anglican Church. As we indicated earlier, every one of the monarchs for the last 1,200 years have been crowned there. And just across the road from Parliament, and separated by Parliament Square, in fact.
And it's been said that Diana wasn't a very religious person. She was a spiritual person, but not a very religious person.
Yeah, that's really a good way of characterizing it. Very much a spiritual person. Some people questioned the type of spirituality, feeling that they would have felt more comfortable if, in fact, it was more mainline, but nonetheless a spiritual person. And had very close friends among the top echelons of the Church of England, but really never attended on a regular basis.
Now at 5:35 is when the members of Diana's family are actually going to be received at the Great West Door. So we have a little bit of time before that happens. After that, almost in 5-minute increments, then you'll have members of the royal family and then the Queen, the senior members.
For service overseas, in fact.
Just want to interrupt for a moment. That is Mohammed El Fayed. He is the owner of Harrods and also Dodi El Fayed's father. And he was invited here, and there will be prayers for his son as well. And apparently he was the one, he said that his son and Diana were very happy. In fact, they had exchanged gifts. She had given him cufflinks, and he had given her a $200,000 ring. So
a lot of people, I think, didn't recognize just how deep the relationship was. And until, in fact, after this tragedy.
And he is said to be very broken up. I guess Dodi had always worked to try to earn his respect.
It's a prerogative that's dissented right now.
And he was asked to sing, but said he was too distraught, that he had been crying all the time and just could not. And at one point, he had said he wasn't even going to attend the funeral. But then later in the week, he changed his mind. And apparently, they were good friends.
Yeah, very good friends. I've seen him looking better, actually. Clearly, he is very much affected by the tragedy.
And she had a love for opera, so I guess that's where they're...
Yeah, which many people didn't realize, because they felt that it was just a clear division with classical music and Charles and pop music and Diana. But in fact, she had a fairly eclectic taste in music.
Yeah, he definitely looks very distraught. Now, we mentioned before that Elton John is singing, and he'll be singing, changing the lyrics to his song.
Changing the lyrics. You can see the throngs of crowds just lining the streets there. It's a very somber mood.
We heard estimates of 6 million. I'm not sure what the latest figures are, but we can try to get those for you.
Now, I believe I believe saw the Admiralty gates, which means they'll be coming from Green Park through the Mall and entering, if I'm not mistaken, up into Whitehall fairly soon.
And he said he will try very hard to be strong for her because she was so strong for him at Gianni Versace's funeral. And George Michael is there with him. Difficult day for him. I can imagine how difficult it will be.
It's very difficult,
trying
yeah.
to sing
and he's a fairly emotional person as well.
And we will hear him, I believe, before the tribute given by her brother, who's her younger brother. He's 33 years old. His name is Charles Spencer, the Earl Spencer, I guess he's called.
The Earl Spencer, yes.
And his title comes from their family's a notable family in and of itself, right? The Spencer family?
Yeah, they've played an active role in British history. For Tony Blair
Blair
and his wife entering. Tony Blair, who's had such a strong influence on the monarchy and has had such an influence over the country just in the short period, actually, of his tenure as Prime Minister.
He really has made waves in the short amount of time.
Truly has, actually, and it's been a very long period, actually, that has had.
And his wife has actually been compared to our First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton, in the fact that she has her own independent career and is more of an independent type than just a traditional First Lady, if you will.
Yeah, very much so. And she's also viewed as a strong pillar, really, in the new Labour government because of that. She's seen as an intellectual power unto her own, a profession unto her own, and she is not taking an active role in government, though, and that, I think, is where the two perhaps...
Maybe she learned.
Maybe she learned.
Backlashed here.
Yeah.
And you already see it's already fairly full. Now, can we see where the royal family will be seated compared to what we're seeing right now?
We won't see it in this shot
Okay.
here. Interestingly, where those people were just seated from that shot, they will not have a clear view of the service.
Okay.
The cathedral is actually laid out that way, the abbey is, I should say.
So there's almost hidden passages in a sense.
Yeah, and many.
Now, what about the role of...
Henry Kissinger
and there was a notable shot of him and Diana,
and Diana.
right? And I think he was a big fan.
Very much a big fan, and I think he was probably a bigger fan of her than she was of him.
Right.
So,
She might not have known his significance until that evening she took the photograph with him. Now, with Fergie, the Duchess of York, because of her separation with Prince Andrew, will she be included in the royal family? Will she be a guest, or is she invited at all? Have we heard anything?
she is expected to attend. It was interesting, she was supposed to have been in New York, and there's supposed to be a press opportunity on Tuesday with Weight Watchers.
Right. Does it look like Andrew and
Yeah, I think
Edward?
so, yes.
Robert? And is that the Queen? Looks like... It's definitely the
this
royal
is the
family.
royal family approaching now.
So that was a shot of
Yes, there's the Queen.
Yes, okay. And we saw Andrew greeting the mourners. He was the first of the royal family to come out on Thursday in London
Yes.
with his younger brother. Now, is this at Buckingham or St. James, or we can't tell yet?
Couldn't tell from that shot, actually, to be honest. You can hear the bell still pealing in the background.
Interesting to know whether they were watching all of this inside the
Yes.
palace. Here's Prince Philip.
It's interesting, when they had their walkabout the other day, one of the ladies in the crowd said to the Queen, "And take care of your two grandchildren." And Prince Philip came up and a bit snappily said, "This is what we have been doing." So it was clearly a sore point there. I don't think Charles has a very close relationship with anyone except for perhaps Camilla.
Who will not be seen today.
We will not see her today, and I don't think we'll be seeing her in the near future.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be some time, actually, before she comes back into the public eye.
I don't think the British public would take too kindly to that. And you had said that maybe Diana has rubbed off on Prince Charles more than he thought. I mean, we saw the picture of him with Harry and just trying to do the right thing and that kind of thing.
You know, it's interesting that in the earlier days, clearly, Charles was annoyed at the amount of attention that she had gained.
A little bit of jealousy there.
Very much so, and in fact, in a couple of his public speeches, he had hinted at that. At one point, he said, "You know, I wish I had two wives that could work both sides of the street."
Right.
And I don't think, clearly at that time, neither he nor his family realized just the role that Diana had with the public. I'm not sure Diana did either, and I'm not sure the public did either. And I think this is just beginning to be realized now.
Unfortunately, had to come after her death.
There's Buckingham Palace right there.
Look at the crowds.
Many of these people that you see have been there for days, camping out from all over the UK and the islands.
It would be interesting to know the person in the front row, what time that they got there and what day, probably Thursday morning or so. And a lot of them said that they actually were hanging tuxedos over the rafters and so as not to get them wrinkled, but they wanted to be respectful when the coffin came by.
Yeah, it's a remarkable moment, actually. I think if anyone had sat down and just said, you know, if Diana was to die, what would the public response be? And I can't imagine anyone that would have predicted this.
Now they are outside Buckingham Palace, I would imagine, and then just waiting for a car to take them to the Abbey?
Yeah, you know, getting a taxi in London is so difficult these days.
And had some private time alone, talked about raising kids in the public eye, and I think almost no one would argue that both have done a fine job with Chelsea Clinton and also with Princes William and Harry. They seem to, despite all the scrutiny, have come out okay.
Yeah, I would imagine that the First Lady could really sympathize with what's going on here, and I think she probably feels this quite deeply as well.
And we should say the procession has passed its halfway mark. It went through the Wellington Arch, again on its way to Westminster Abbey. We can see the two boys. Is that looks like Prince William? Yeah.
Yep.
And Prince William walking behind Prince Harry there, and Prince Charles in front. Now, I don't think they were gathered with the Queen, correct, before, or were they? Maybe they were and we just didn't. Prince Charles looks like he's talking to Harry.
Harry there, yes.
I think one of the things, we haven't seen a lot of Prince William, and it's surprising how tall he is. When he stood next to his father, he was towering over him during that walkabout.
He's a good-looking boy, actually.
Looks just like his mother, doesn't he?
Very much so. Very popular. The younger one, of course, is a lot spunkier than. I mean, Harry has a certain love of life, actually, that his mother had.
The spirit, right?
Very much so.
And they both go to different schools, and Harry will not go to the school that William's going to right now.
No,
right?
William is at Eton, and Harry will not go there. There is some that if, in fact, he'd give in, that he'd actually join the boys. I thought it would have been bad PR to just have the boys join. After all, it was his ex-wife.
Right. And to let the boys walk alone at their age, 13 and 15 years old, is a difficult thing for them to do.
This is a very new role that the Crown just does not feel very comfortable in, and that is really becoming political, becoming involved with spinning, and this is really what they're doing now. They realize that they have a public face as much as a private face, and the public face has got to be really in touch with what's going on.
And Diana has said that she had tried to get them to hire a public relations director, I believe the one that Tony Blair actually uses.
That's right, yes.
And they said, we don't want that, and now they're probably saying we probably should have.
Yeah, I think they wish they had, actually.
Yeah.
See, the procession is now being joined.
Now they say that Prince Williams acts as a protector of sorts to Harry, that he really looks after him and feels like that's his role.
It's a lovely relationship they have, and of course it was, you can imagine how difficult it must have been actually going from the lifestyle of Diana one week.
When she was 8 years old.
With Diana's mother?
Yeah.
The real relationship, as you mentioned, was really with the father, and the relationship with the mother was at times rather chilly, and it was I think rather interesting. Of course, your relationship with your parents affect how you're going to relate to your children. I think clearly this has affected Diana, the way she's related to her children, and as we said, Charles, and the way he's related to his children. I mean, either you follow the same mold or you break the mold.
Right.
And I think Diana responded the same way.
are about a half a mile from the Abbey. And right now, the Spencer family, we saw some of them, her mother come in to the... Now that's unusual. That's the first clapping we've heard.
Very strange, actually. It's more in line with what you'd see when, or hear when, in fact, one of the royals is, on a normal occasion, is actually passing by.
So we have the 5 family members. We have Diana's brother.
Following. Here is the Queen Mother. Following the Queen. You have to wonder how much of the applause is for the Queen Mother and how much for the Queen.
You said the Queen Mother is
very, very popular. Yes. There's going to be enormous sadness when she dies. But it'll be expressed far differently than it was at Diana's funeral.
A more quiet sentiment?
A more quiet sentiment.
Now they're going through the Great West Door.
Going through the Great West Door, they'll be taking their place in the front row. They will not be seated in the same set of pews as the Spencer family, who will be seated in the first row on the opposite side. This is a pachelbel being played by Martin Neary, the organist, the master of the choristers. Diana was very fond of this, and I think this is one of the reasons that this was chosen. So, and a lot of people are wondering, how did this really differ from the state funerals in the past? And here you can really feel Diana coming outside and saying, well, this is what I want done, and this is how it should be done, and this is what I want for the people. Brilliant. They're very good, and perhaps you can get a sense of that now. It's Queen Mother walking forward. And conflicting views over the last week.
The service is set to start in about 3 minutes, but it looks like running just a little bit behind time, but there they are.
We are gathered here in Westminster Abbey to give thanks for the life of Diana, Princess of Wales, to commend her soul to Almighty God, and to seek his comfort for all who mourn. We particularly pray for God's restoring peace and loving presence with her children, the Princes William and Harry, and all her family. In her life, Diana profoundly influenced this nation and the world. Although a princess, she was someone for whom, from afar, we dared to feel affection, and by whom we were all intrigued. She kept company with kings and queens, with princes and presidents, but especially we remember her humane concerns and how she met individuals and made them feel secure.